It went out, no, it has. Pleasure, I mean, to embrace it.
They beat Andrews last night. Andrews okay. Y'all got a good team this year? Been shut down for like 2 weeks. Started back this
Yeah.
week.
Players?
Just players.
Yeah. I guess y'all got that view. We're trying to be as even. What difference it matters. That's why Carolina went there the whole year without having
We're going to give it about 5 more minutes, let people get situated, get settled, and then we'll go ahead and get started with our program. That didn't mean y'all had to stop talking. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with the program. But before I get started with the welcome, I'd like to thank everybody for observing the mask mandate. While I'm up here on the mic, I may not wear mine, but thank you for observing the mandate. Talking through a mask, though, made me realize something. And so some of the stuff that I'll say while I'm up here, some people may get it, some people may not. So just kind of bear with me when you hear a giggle here or over there. But like I said, talking through the mask reminded me of something. So raise your hand, and it might be everybody, if you ever attended the Hang the Net event. Show of hands. Okay, that's close enough. So most of y'all will understand what I'm getting ready to do. And this, like I told you, Ruth Ann, this is for you. So y'all remember when we were in the hosiery, how the acoustics were in the hosiery and what everything sounded like. And so it was kind of like Art was wearing a mask. So for you, this is every Hang the Net that you've ever been to.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Hang Total Community Center for the 25th annual Hang the Net Learn Shootout Flounder Contest.
Dunk contest. Living legends. Trophies. That, ladies and gentlemen, was every Hang the Net that you've ever been to. So, we're going to go ahead and get started with the welcome. On behalf of the family of Art Blevins, my name is Gary Lash, and I would like to welcome all you here to celebrate the life and legacy of Mr. Arthur T. Blevins. A few housekeeping notes to start out with. The family wants this to be a joyful and cheerful event. So have a good time, have a happy time. And we do have a limit on the amount of tears that you can shed today. So, as you may have noticed, there are several hundred of the 3 billion and one pictures that Art took. So please be respectful, and everybody's got the camera phone. Go take a camera phone picture, and have that picture with you to take in your phone. But we also know that there are several people who would have liked to speak today, and we would have loved to hear them, but we wanted this event to be a little program and a lot of fellowship. So we'll leave a lot of time at the end to mingle and to chat. And then lastly, we've got cake. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Mr. Gregory King Sr. He's going to have a few words and also a moment of prayer.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg King, and I was extremely fortunate to have been Art Blevins' brother-in-law. From the first time Art and I met, we had a connection through youth sports. It's what we both did for a living, and it's what we both loved. But over time, our relationship included so many other things, such as family, children, the Ghoulie girls, and many other topics. So I want to just give a brief story about some of those topics that I mentioned before I get to the prayer. First, I want to talk about our children. My kids, little Greg and Steffi, simply idolized their Uncle Art. Little Greg loved his Uncle Art. He spent a lot of Friday nights when I would have football games with his Aunt Ruth Ann and Uncle Art. He loved going over there, and as he grew older, I guess it was around the time he was a teenager, maybe 13, he realized that he had the same shoe size as his Uncle Art. And he could actually go in, and if you know anything about Uncle Art, as you can see up here, he loved his shoes. And Greg would go into and look at Uncle Art's shoe collection, and it was amazing. His shoe collection became something that was rather famous around our house. My wife and I would have trouble finding him, my son's shoes that would fit his size 15 feet, but Art would always come through with us. He would always help us out, and he would always find, of course, the newest and the hottest styles that were available. When my wife and I would get him shoes, they wouldn't be very nice. They may be 3 or 4 years old, but Art always came through for us. Little Greg loved and respected his Uncle Art in so many ways. I can't get into them all now. My daughter, on the other hand, Steffi, she had a very interesting way of looking at her Uncle Art, and especially his relationship with his daughter. So if you knew Art, there's no doubt that you knew Kayla. Even if you had never met Kayla, you knew who she was. You knew what she looked like. You probably knew what she had for breakfast that morning. But when he would talk about Kayla, it wasn't in a bragging way like some parents do today. You could tell in his voice and in his expressions that he loved his daughter very much. And he was extremely proud of everything that she did and everything that she stood for. We all know, as you can see by looking around the back in the slideshow here, that Uncle Art loved pictures. And Uncle Art loved Kayla. So if you put 1 + 1 together there, you find out that you have way too many pictures of Kayla. So if you go into their house, you would find basically walls filled with pictures of Kayla. Different stages of her life. Maybe in the living room you would have the early stages, and then maybe in the hallway it would be the middle school years. And you would pass through different shrines to Kayla. Art was an amazing father. He would move heaven and earth to do anything for Kayla. It's not a surprise if you knew Art. And everything he did for her was out of the pure love that was in his heart for his daughter. I would see this, and I would simply be amazed by the type of dad, the type of father that he was. It was kind of odd to me, because I had a different philosophy when it came to dealing with my kids than what Art had. The difference was so obvious that my daughter, Steffi, called me once, and this reminds you here that she is an adult at this point. She's not in high school or middle school. She is an adult. She's a teacher at Atkins, and it also happened as a teacher at East Forsyth. And she would call me in mid-morning. She'd say, "Dad, let's play a game." She would say, "Let's pretend that I'm Kayla, and let's pretend that you are Uncle Art. And I want you to know that I forgot my lunch today, so will you bring me something? Will you bring me something to eat at school?" Well, I knew that was a game that I didn't want to play, because being retired, I had a full morning planned. But I also knew that Art had set the bar extremely high of being a father, being a dad, being a loving dad, a caring dad. And I knew my daughter was exactly right, because I saw where the bar had been set by Art, and I knew that I needed to meet it. So guess what? Steffi got lunch that day. I don't know if it was Bojangles or East Coast Wings or whatever it was, but she got something to eat that day. Next, I want to move on and talk about the Ghoulie girls. There are 3 Ghoulie girls. And thank heavens that there are only 3, but there are 3 Ghoulie girls in the order of age: Mary Beth, Ruth Ann, and Susan. There are 3 men who were lucky enough to marry these Ghoulie girls. Art married Ruth Ann. There have been many family celebrations where the 3 of us Mary-Anns would find our own little hideout or our own little hangout, whatever you want to call it, whether it was forming our own little peanut gallery at the Christmas celebrations over at the table to the side where we could make our little comments to each other, or whether it was celebrating Thanksgiving. And I want to talk about Thanksgiving because Thanksgiving at Art and Ruth Ann's house was amazing. We always had a great time together as a family, as an extended family. The food was simply tremendous. Ruth Ann is a heck of a cook. And it was a great match to be with Art because Art was so caring about other people that he was always walking around saying, do you need more mashed potatoes? Do you need more turkey, some more dressing? How about dessert? You want another slice of dessert? You need more drink. He was always going around taking care of everyone else. So true of his character and what he was all about. And the best part of the Thanksgiving celebration was Art enjoyed cleaning up. That meant we didn't have to worry about it. So the fellowship at these Thanksgiving celebrations, it was always good. It was always fun. But the best part of these Thanksgiving celebrations would be when Art and I would slip away, go downstairs to his man cave. And boy, did he have a man cave. It was a real man's man cave. We would watch a football game or an old movie, usually a Western, and we would sit there and have some great conversations. We would discuss things such as raising kids, the difficulties of trying to help our kids grow up, the difficulties of dealing with kids at the rec center or in teaching high school or coaching sports. We would share different philosophies of dealing with the kids, our own and others. But one of the most memorable moments that we shared was when we discussed role models. We started talking about society in general and role models for these young kids. And to say Art Blevins was the ultimate role model doesn't reveal half of his character. We all know that Art was a role model to thousands of kids over the years, but what I shared with Art one evening as we watched an old Western and shared a Thanksgiving meal was that he was my role model. Now, if you know anything about Art, he simply just paused for a moment. He looked at me, and in all of his humility, he denied that could ever be possible. I went on to explain how he was a role model to me. For example, in the way that he dealt with the rec center kids, how he showed them pure love and respect, no matter who they were, where they came from, or anything else. The many lives that he touched that way. The way that he was a great father to Kayla. The way that he was such a caring and loving husband. The way he was so good and respectful as a son, as a brother, and as an uncle. And maybe the most amazing aspect of Art was how he nurtured every single relationship he ever had, and he kept it growing with love and respect, pure love and respect. Before my last conversation with Art, I remembered that particular Thanksgiving conversation, and as I called him to talk to him one last time, I wanted to emphasize to him how grateful I was to him for being my role model. It was a tough conversation to have. It's tough thinking about it to share with you today. I'm not sure anyone ever knew about this. But I knew that I would never speak to Art again in this life. But it was with love and gratitude and tremendous respect for a wonderful man whose impact is still felt to this day in my life and in the life of thousands of people in this community. The last story I want to share with you is a Christmas story. Art loved Christmas. Every Christmas, Art would text my wife Susan and let her know when one of his favorite movies would come on TV. That movie's called It's a Wonderful Life. It's also one of Susan's favorite movies, and it may be Art's favorite movie. So I began to think about this movie, and I began to see so many parallels in Art's life with the main character at the time of George Bailey. I don't need to explain the entire plot of the movie, but if you've seen it, you understand that to Art has figuratively jumped off that bridge many times to save so many people in this community. If Art knew you through family, if he knew you through working with you at the recreation department, the children at all the rec centers, if he knew you through friendships, he was always willing to jump off that bridge and help save anyone. Art gave so much of himself to help and save others. In the movie, Clarence, who was George Bailey's guardian angel, shows George how he affected so many lives over the years in such a positive way. And without him, the lives of everyone in the town would just be so much worse. And boy, that is truly Art Blevins. Our lives are so much better having known Art. Art lived a life of integrity, and his life was filled with love and respect for others. The life that Art Blevins lived has had a profound positive impact and effect on the kids and adults in this community. So as I close, let me just ask you a simple question. Think about it. How many of you would have a very different life story without Art Blevins in your life? How many of you would have a worse life? And I'm going to ask you to do something for me. Stand up if Art Blevins made a profound impact on your life and you are a better person for having known Art. Stand up for me. He was an amazing man. I want to close with this prayer, so if everyone could please stand up. I'm going to close here with a simple prayer. That's kind of what I was up here to do, and I got a little carried away with some other stories. So, in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. We thank you that you have made each of us in your own image and given us gifts and talents with which to serve you. We thank you for our brother Art. His span of 62 years he spent on this earth. God our Father, we thank you for all of Art's life, the many gifts of his character, for every memory of love and joy, for every good deed by Art. And there were so many good deeds. We thank you for his life and death, which was shrouded with integrity and dignity. We thank you for the rest in Christ that Art now enjoys. We thank you for giving and sharing Art with us, and we thank you for the glory we shall share together one day in heaven. Hear our prayers through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Thank you, Coach King. That was close. That was close. I told you we got a tier limit in here. So that was real close. I don't know if he got some of y'all, but I was on the verge. But now we're going to do some reflections, and next up, we've got Art's brother, Mr. Kenny Ferris Jr.
It's going to be hard to follow Greg. Good Lord. Amen. No, it's been a rough year. I think everybody here has done their version of grieving, and I think it's time to celebrate. So I just jotted down some ideas and things, stories of what we did over the years, and things that made me laugh and things that made me happy, and the joy that my brother brought. Problem is I can't read them now because I can't see. So my glasses are not as good as I thought they were. But basically I'm Art's middle brother. Joel's the younger brother. I wasn't 8. Art was 8 when I was born. And that's a big difference when you think about it. I mean, 8 and birth is, I guess, not a ton of difference, but 16 and 8 is a huge difference. So it took me a while to figure out what was going on, that how my brother was going to mold my life, but he did. So I can go back to, I guess my earliest memories were maybe 5, 6, 7, something like that. Art would take me downtown to karate movies on Saturday mornings. And, that's just what we did. And riding the bus, something as simple as that you think, okay, everybody rides a bus. But, wow, I still remember it. I can still see that. I can still see the white cleats I was wearing at the time because I was a Joe Namath fan and an Oakland A's fan, and Art wanted me to have white cleats, so he painted some black cleats white. Hey, that's what we did. That's the way we rolled back then. Yeah, I remember, at the time, I was just drinking everything in. I remember everything. I can remember the theaters, the Winston and the Carolina. I can remember looking at the balcony and thinking, man, I want to go sit up there, and how cool would that be? But my brother stands out. There's pictures of me fishing with him, and I don't fish, so I don't remember that one. That was before this time. And there are pictures with me copying him sitting down where he's wearing like the hippie leather vest or something, which is probably back now. I don't know, but I don't remember that. But I remember this, and it's just stuck to my ribs. I can remember wearing those same shoes, walking in the woods with Art and my dad, and stepping in a yellow jacket's nest, and they're protecting me. And I'm just like, hey man, what's going on here? I have my cool football uniform on, and bees are stinging them and just barely getting me, I guess. But that's the kind of thing that they did and he did. Speaking of that, though, I was a big Joe Namath fan, and years later, I'm kind of jumping around a little bit, but years later, everybody knows, I guess, that Art collected a ton of sports memorabilia. Literally tons. I mean, yeah. But we were at a flea market of some sort, and now my brain's fading on this. I can remember 6 years old, but I can't remember this. But he had a box full of Star Wars, this, that, or the other. And I've never been a Star Wars fan, and I don't think Art was ever a Star Wars fan. So we were trying to figure out how to unload it, how to trade something for it, and let's see what we could find. So a lady walks up, and she has this box, this acrylic, it may have been glass, I don't know, display case with gold feet, shiny gold feet, and a football with a big signature Joe Namath. And he looked at me and he said, "You think we ought to trade for it?" And being the guy who knows collectibles like me, I said, "No, absolutely not." I said, "That's not Joe Namath's signature. That's a lady's signature." Yeah, ever since then I see them pop up, and yeah, it was Joe Namath. So I missed out on that. Greg mentioned role models, and it's funny because we used to go with teams. It's funny, I didn't coach much basketball, but when every year would come around, Art would call me and say, "Let's go." And I would say, "Okay, let's do it." And Brian, we would have all kinds of great talent and just go and play, and the guys would win, and everything was great. But I'll never forget walking into the Coliseum in Charlotte. David Thompson was having a clinic, a bunch of kids around. And to put this into perspective, Michael Jordan was my guy. But Art used to always say, Jordan's your guy, David Thompson was my guy. I thought nothing of it till we go walking into the Coliseum there. And as we're walking in, David Thompson says, "Hey, Art." Michael Jordan still never spoken to me. Yeah. But, Art was really the guy I wanted to be. I wanted to be like Art. I wanted to be like Mike, too, but I wanted to be like Art. But those shoes, I literally and figuratively just couldn't walk in those shoes. I tried. The recreation department, the Winston-Salem Recreation Department, great. I grew up in the recreation department, as many of us did. You know, I thought I could do it. So I graduate and get ready to have a little part-time job. Sure, I'll do it. Summer comes around, they say, yeah, we're going to give you Forest Park. And I'm like, that's where we started, you know? I mean, Art was at Forest Park, and we played baseball all day, and it was great. And I got down there were no kids. 0 kids. So I thought, this is not the way Art did it. Something's wrong. I tried it a few more times and realized I just didn't have it. I just could not be like my brother in that regard. So I would go visit him at his gym and recreation places, depending on where he was. Couldn't do it. But plus, those shoes are huge. You know, I also notice a lot of people focus on the time Art spent with kids, how he molded the lives of many young people, but he changed lives of older people, not just kids and not just us that put ourselves in the middle, but the older people. I mean, it was nothing for him to mow 5 or 6 yards in an afternoon after being at the gym all day and just sweating and worn out. And then every once in a while he'd call me and I would say, I can't do it. Because literally I couldn't do it, but he could. He was just awesome. And yeah. Yes. He had that laugh, and I know everybody has probably heard it, but there was that high-pitched laugh. The regular laugh was just a laugh, but when he hit those high notes, that's when something was funny. That's when, and I bring that up because the last time that we went on a trip together, we went on many trips, but not as many as we should have because I always had something that I had to do. I mean, same thing with Kayla growing up. How much time did I spend with you? Don't tell anybody, but it's on the low end of the scale. So when Art would want to go somewhere or ask me to go somewhere, I always had something going on. But it worked out that there was a trip to Chapel Hill. Carolina was playing Wofford. So you're thinking this is going to be good. In Carmichael, no less. So we go down and spend the day with Bobby and Kayla, and it was awesome. I mean, it was amazing. There was a picture that was shown a while ago, having lunch. Just a great time. The game sucked. We lost to Wofford. But, you know, on the way out, Art said something that kind of resonated with me, and he said, you know, you can't win, you can't expect these guys to be stars when last year they were the scrubs. And wow, that was kind of, you know, prolific. I mean, I thought about that and let it rattle in my head for a while, but that applies in life. You know, you can't afford to be a scrub. You really need to be a star every day. And I think he kind of taught me that. But his jokes, everybody's heard his jokes. I don't know of one offhand because usually they were made up like on the moment. And then the ear pinch, I don't know how it's like the Vulcan death grip thing, or I don't know, but I've literally contorted my body to get away from it, and yeah, I wish I had it now. But I guess the only other thing I'll say is, I'm trying to keep it short, but you know, when people pass, a lot of times, even if it's somebody we don't like, we have something against them or whatever, you can always find some way to say, you know what, he was a nice guy. He was a decent guy. He was good with dogs, whatever. But my brother literally was. I mean, he was good. He was better than good. Yeah. Anyway. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Kenny. Art was also a rapper. So I don't know how many of you guys knew that. But he could rhyme too, so don't ever overlook that part of it. So next, coming up, we're gonna have who I'm going to consider one of our old hosiery kids. But, and the funny thing is, I ain't that much older than you. But still, he was one of the old hosiery kids. But coming to the stage, I'd like to introduce Mr. Hashan Gettings.
You turned the faucet on just a little bit. I'm going to try my best not to let it go. Like Gary said, I'm one of the old hosiery guys. I moved here from New York probably mid-'90s, early '90s, and you know, it's been a long journey, but a pleasurable one. And I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to actually get up here and say something. It's truly an honor. Just had to turn it on, didn't you? It's cool. And this is my first year with glasses, so trying with glasses on hasn't been fun. Sorry. My wife always wore glasses. I like to tell people, I am who I am because of the people that I encountered in life and the experiences I've gone through. And art was one of the biggest. Imagine 14, 15-year-old kid thinking he knew everything. To find out you don't know nothing. You know, I've had several blessings in my life. And these people I like to call beacons of life. And we all know what a beacon is. You know, either a fire or a light that's held up bright to either to do what? Warn you, something to celebrate, or guide you in the right direction, right? And that's what art was for me. He did all those. I remember in the early close months of going to Hank's Hosiery, and you know, he had that environment where it just attracted you. It got to the point where I went up there, I think it was the first time, like at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, left about 6. Next day, got up there about 11, left whenever they closed the doors, to the point where I'm standing outside waiting for him to open the door and helping him turn light switches on. You know, and I remember, you know, you talk about his shoes. I didn't realize it. You know, I came in there one time to play basketball my early years, and I had those shoes that pump up, right? You guys remember those? They weren't Felines. They wouldn't. No, mine were Volts. Volts. Okay, that's what I had. Volts. The ones you get at Pick and Pay. But hey, and I remember the bottom of the soles coming off of it. And I thought I was good coming to the gym because I was like, hey, I glued it overnight, put some books on it. I'll be good to play ball in the morning. And I get there and the bottom of it just blah, 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 blah. And of course, I duct tape it and, you know, continue playing because that's what we did. Next day, I walk in, same shoes. Art said, come here. I'm like, I ain't been coming here that long. What did I do? Come in his office and he has like 4 pair. Hey, grab a pair. You know, and the care and the love and the passion he had for people. And my wife picks on me because we've been together well over 22 years now, and she wondered why I am the way I am. I mean, there's times where I've gone up there hungry. And if you look at any of those pictures back there, you'll see how thin I was. Without hesitation. He'll either put a little money out of his pocket, hey, go to McDonald's. Or he get those coupons that, give out. Had to sweep the floor for him, but hey, I swept it. Or he'll send you back there to the kitchen. Hey, go ahead and start a pot of water. Get the chili going. We'll get the hot dogs out the freezer. And it's just amazing how he treated people. You guys Tim Duncan, everybody knows who he is. Him walking into Hank's Hosiery and me walking into Hank's Hosiery. Do you know what the difference in the greeting for art is? Not a thing. You feel like you're like walking on red carpet, and happy to see you, and he even gets the paparazzi and comes, get the camera, get the camera, get the camera. Hey, get a picture, get a picture. So he makes you feel like a rock star, And it's just an honor, true honor, to have had him in my life. And I know I keep saying I am who I am because of the people and experiences I've encountered in life. I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for him. All right. If he didn't have the environment, you had to turn it on. If he didn't have the loving and caring environment that he had, it would not have kept me up there from sunrise to sunset. It wouldn't give me the opportunity to meet Officer Boyd, which he was a park ranger back then, who told me about a program which allowed me to get my associate's degree. And eventually I became a police officer. And almost 22 years later, I'm still there. There's no telling where I would have been if he didn't have the type of environment that he did. We think, and sometimes those beacons are not there anymore, but they still shine bright because of our memories, experiences, and how we treat others. I've had, just like you guys, probably had a whole lot of firsts with him. I had a lot of firsts with him. I remember trying to play baseball at Hank's Hosiery. And little people know that was the first sport I ever tried to play up there. You had to invite him? I forgot you were on that team, Jordan. I put it this way, the ball hit me more than I hit it. If we can save my swings, I think we'll have a nice fan that just automatically goes for about 3 years. But Art never discouraged me. He always encouraged you to, hey, you'll get it next time. It'll be all right. He'll give you tips on how to do it better. Did I play baseball after that again? No. Basketball became my passion. It was a little bit better. But thank you guys for allowing me to have a lot of firsts, because first time I played baseball. First time I ever watched a college game was with Art. Basketball, football. First time I met a celebrity was Art. So, and he taught me a lot of how to treat people, the respect I have for others. And this is where my wife and my family gets mad at me, because I used to always get up when somebody calls. What do you need? I'm on my way. And it's that bad habit. But thank you guys for sharing him, not just with me, but with Winston-Salem, period. It's truly been an honor. And, I love you guys. If you need anything. All right, I tried to close it a little bit, okay? Thank you.
Don't even do it. One of the hosiery kids, y'all. But I do remember he used to always ride that bicycle up to the hosiery. Oh yeah, you omitted that part. I could not believe you did not put that in there. That little raggedy bike, and he got all over the city. He rode that bicycle to Art's house from the hosiery or from everywhere. So yeah, definitely. But he also touched on, as everybody has, food. You didn't realize that you fed more people than you fed Art. Art brought all your food to work. So I just want you to know that. And it would be stuff that didn't match. He brought all kinds of things. He would bring a nice tenderloin. He might bring a granola bar with it, some carrot sticks, just anything, just to make sure we had something. And golly, he would make you eat. I could never get down to an ideal body weight working with Art, ever in life. But I want to say, for those of you who do not know me, and I'm not going to assume that you do, my name is Gary Lash. I met Coach Art in 1992 when we both started working at Haynes Hosiery, the old Haynes Hosiery Community Center, the one with the giant fans and the crow's nest press box and the wind up timer that everybody wanted you to stop it because he fouled me and we gonna argue about it. So that was the old hosiery where I met Art. We came there at the same time. He was my supervisor, he was my mentor, my best friend, my confidant, and my big brother. But he was Batman to my Robin. I'm not gonna do it. That's all you getting. Because even after me, Kayla has to come up. So y'all better save some stuff. I'm not going to do this. So anyway, the interactive part of the show. By show of hands, I would need you to do this for me. Who in here is related to Art Blevins? Got you. Family, thank you. Who grew up with or went to school maybe with Art Blevins? Wowzers, getting better. This is good. Who worked somewhere in recreation with Art Blevins? Yeah, boy, this is getting good. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. So, who knew Art Blevins from one of the many recreation centers, Skyland, Forest Park, South Fork, the old hosiery, new hosiery, or Old Town? Nice. But good call. That's the first place I started too. Golly. But for the rest of you, who knew Art just because he was a great guy in the community? Okay, thank y'all. I think that may just about cover everybody. So as you look around and see all these people and how many different ways he touched people in his life, he made you feel special. He really did. It was, hey buddy, there's my point guard, my QB, there's my big man. They were always, nicknames or whatever, but it was always an acknowledgement of something that you did, and he made you feel special. Most of y'all didn't even realize that your neighborhood or your middle school or even your bicycle was a whole university or a city. Y'all didn't know. Because you might be point guard from Dalton University in North Hills community. You might be the big man from Huffy Dirt Bike Tech. But this is how he greeted you. He greeted you with these nicknames. Wide receiver from North Hills University. I mean, he would just make it up because he always wanted to put the shine on you. He wanted you to feel special. So He was always our biggest cheerleader. He just was. He believed in us more than we did. He really did. Coach Art used to post stats and submit articles. You know, he put all your stuff out there. He sent it to the Chronicle for you to read. He would get it. He would cut it out, put it on posters, and put it up in the center. You would run into the center just to see pictures of yourself and your stats. You felt like you were in the league somewhere. So he would put stuff in there about how you led the Tar Heels over the Blue Devils, you know, in this game because you scored 14 points, yada, yada. But you got to see your name in writing. And it made you feel good. It made you feel real good. He always gave you your shine. Now, like we said, he used to feed us. He would outfit you. He would transport you. He would brag on you. He gave you tickets to games, coupons, yes, sir. And most definitely, he took pictures of you. He was your protector, and he was your press secretary as well. He was by far one of the kindest men we'll ever know. If all of us were more like him, there would be no violence. There would be no kind of racial strife. And for sure, there would be no hunger. Coach Art was the best in all of us, and we thank him for that. Now, without any further ado, I'm going to introduce his K-Bug. Like you say, if you knew Art, you knew Kayla. You might not know Ruth Ann as well, but you knew Kayla. So, Kayla Blevins, come on up to the stage.
Oh, hi. I graduated from high school in 2012. As our senior class president, I had to give a speech at our graduation. I remember in the days leading up to it, I was getting more and more nervous about giving a speech to a coliseum full of people, 400 of my classmates, their families, and their friends. I've never really minded public speaking, but as I'm sure you can imagine, that's a lot of eyes and ears to be focused on you, kind of like right now. The time came for me to step up to the podium and give my speech. By this time, I was really nervous. My voice wasn't quite as bold and strong as I intended it to be. And I was definitely shaking, like I am kind of right now. The LJVM Coliseum was perfectly quiet, aside from the sound of my voice echoing through the microphone and speakers. Again, like right now. Until I heard it, a sound coming from the right side of the Coliseum, a constant clicking, whirring sound, the sound of a camera, taking tons of photos, and you all know exactly who was behind that camera, my dad. I looked over to my dad behind the camera, and all the nerves went away. I didn't care if he wasn't listening to a single word I was saying. I could tell he was the proudest person in that Coliseum. And that's all that mattered to me. He had my back like always. I could have frozen up, run off the stage, and he still would have told me it was the best speech he had ever heard. So I looked at him, smiled as he took more photos, and went on with my speech. So today I can't promise I won't stop and start again, might run off the stage, I don't know. But thank you for your patience. I'm gonna pretend that right over to the side is Dad, this time with his iPhone camera getting way too close to my face, as I make it through today's celebration of his life. I wanna thank you all for being here. A ballroom full of people, even more watching on a live stream. I would say I'm surprised, but I'm not. Art Blevins was loved and cherished by this community. And while I certainly wish it were under much different circumstances that were gathered here in this room, the same room actually where he was inducted to the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Sports Hall of Fame, I'm glad to be here with all of you today to celebrate his life. It was extremely difficult for our family to have to wait for this moment, almost a year later, to celebrate and honor him, but we could not have imagined doing this a year ago at the peak of COVID and not be able to have all of you here with us. We did not want that. He would not have wanted that, so thanks for being here now. Dad passed away on September 11th, 2020. I remember the call at 3 a.m. I knew it was coming. That week in hospice was hell for all of us, but it was also the first time my dad had been at peace and out of excruciating pain in months. So the morning after we got up, called people, realized it had already made the newspaper and the 12, 5, and 6 p.m. news, I sat down and I began to write his obituary. My mom was on the phone with friends and family. Bobby was running around our house trying to make sure we had food, drink, whatever, and I wrote. It was very therapeutic. Words have always been somewhat therapeutic for me. But this time, putting those words onto paper seemed silly. It seemed fake, and it seemed like a cruel joke. Was I really writing my dad's obituary at 26? It started to feel like a nightmare I hadn't woken up from yet, and still haven't. I know my dad was awesome, the GOAT, as you might say, but as I wrote, I was reminded of just how awesome he was. His accomplishments and accolades are reminders of the legacy he's left on this community, his kids, his friends, his colleagues, those same accomplishments and accolades he insisted he didn't deserve. I feel like I can't make this speech without talking about the dreaded topic, pancreatic cancer. I won't get into the details of it, but I will say this. COVID had a silver lining for our family. I was able to be home for 4 months last summer to take care of my dad. It was the worst time of my life, but also somewhat of an honor to be able to care for the man that had given me everything I wanted or needed. And I see a lot of people starting to cry. Y'all are gonna need to cut it out. It was horrible, awful, all of those words to watch the cancer eat away at him, to watch him become someone I truly couldn't recognize. I know lots of you were shocked and saddened not to see him, but trust me, you didn't want to, and he didn't want you to either. There was a part of him that knew it wasn't going to end well despite never giving up his fight. He read every card that you sent and every text, got every gift, and heard every voicemail, even if you didn't respond. He was truly blown away by the love and support of this community, so much that it brought him to tears more than once. But the greatest gift he could have ever left you with was not having to see him suffer, so you could remember the coach art we all love and miss so much. The coach, dad, husband, son, brother, friend you see in the photos on the screen and along the walls today. The coach art you hold dear in some of your own memories, truly the greatest of all time. I didn't necessarily think I had it in me to be up here, particularly after this past week, which has been an emotional whirlwind, but I'm fortunate that I'm here now. If you knew my dad, you know he loved a lot of things. His family, the Tar Heels, Demon Deacons, kids at the hosiery, his job, Diet Mountain Dew, and me, his little girl. I used to get so mad when he would say that after I reached a certain age, and I would get so embarrassed and annoyed when he would brag on me and told me how proud he was of me to literally anyone who would listen. As it's been said, to be honest, I'm sure many of you in here today know more about me than I know about you. But wow, what I would give to hear his voice brag on me one more time. So today I'm taking time to return the favor. I'm going to talk about him and brag about him and celebrate him. I know it's technically a memorial, but I don't want it to be sad. I've had more than my fair share of tears and anger and heartache over this past year. And while I know there will continue to be hard days ahead, today's a day to celebrate him and smile about him. So I'm going to do just that. There are so many stories I want to tell, like the time he put on a Stone Cold Steve Austin mask and scared my cousins and me so badly we went screaming bloody murder to my mom, who was in the shower, and freaked her out. In between laughs, my dad realized how that was a bad idea. Or his lack of handiwork skills, as evident by the hole in our wall downstairs, where he was trying to hang something up. My Uncle Kenny literally just told us about this a couple of months ago. Dad never owned up to it, and my mom and I just saw it recently. Or his belly laugh that was so contagious once he really started laughing. Or the fact we had a no talking before 8 a.m. rule in our house because he was a morning person and I am not. Or the incredible way he could literally run into anyone, anywhere, and know them, like the time we were in Disney World and had someone yell, "Hey, coach," at him. But we'd be here for hours if I told all of my stories, so I'm taking another route. By show of hands, how many of you were fortunate enough to receive an Art Blevins poster? Yeah. So posters were his specialties. He loved making people feel celebrated and loved. So if you were in the paper or got an award, or maybe just needed to pick me up after a tough time, you probably got a poster from my dad. I still have 2 hanging up in my room at my parents' house that he made when I graduated from UNC. I realized by writing this that I don't think I ever made him a poster. Maybe a giant card or a drawing or something, but never a poster. So I thought, it's never too late. practice setting it up before. Okay, so I've taken a page out of Dad's book for this one, so bear with me, and I think you'll catch on pretty quickly. It's impossible to capture all of the amazing things about my dad in just one speech, but here's my best attempt. My dad was compassionate. He was kind and caring to all, and he made you feel loved and celebrated no matter who you were, where you were from, or what you looked like. His love for his family was all-consuming, and his true concern for his kids, friends, and colleagues was inspiring. My dad went out of his way for those in his corner, even those who weren't. He took care of his family, friends, and kids most time on his own dime. He made sure every person who walked through the doors of the hosiery had something to eat and a shirt to wear. He would drive people home late at night. Some of you probably remember the station wagon or the old green van, just so they wouldn't have to walk home after a late night at the gym. He purchased gifts and delivered them to kids around the holidays, made sure families had a Thanksgiving turkey and canned goods, and a warm jacket or blanket too. Going out of his way for others was the norm for him. My dad was ambitious. He was hardworking and dedicated, and when he set his mind to do something, he was going to get it done. I was inspired and still am inspired by him. Right after high school, he got started with the city, and over his 40-year career worked to establish connections with this community. His colleagues, Wake Forest, high schools, literally the entire city of Winston-Salem, creating an incredible legacy along the way. I know there were tough times and long nights, but that never dimmed his passion for or his commitment to his work. My dad was corny. He could crack himself up with a dad joke or a rhyme, and I wonder where I get it from. You were in for a treat if he got into one of his silly moods and busted into a rap. Just ask my Aunt Mary Beth about the time she fell on Christmas Day, resulting in an original poem about the said incident that is highly coveted in our family. He even asked my mom to marry him through a poem he wrote. He loved a good pun or a text-filled emoji, as I'm sure many of you know. My dad had a heart of gold, as evidenced by literally everything that has been said here today and the people in this room. One story that I love to hear my mom tell is one that I think truly embodies my dad's kind heart and the way he viewed the world. My mom and him had just started dating, and he invited her to come watch him coach at the gym. My mom knew he was involved with the city and rec centers, but other than that, didn't really know the scope. At this particular game she came to watch, one of my dad's players got really heated. He started cussing and yelling and clearly was not happy about one of the calls. My dad got the kid's attention and told him to come over to the sideline, even though the kid was still fuming. He subbed him out, but he didn't yell. He just hugged the kid. He hugged him and told him to sit down, shake it off, and get his head back into the game. He later told my mom that he knew this particular kid didn't need another person yelling at him. Instead, he needed someone, a coach, that could show the kid he was there for him. My mom knew then that Art Blevins was something special. My dad was a little bit stubborn. Some who knew him well might argue that that should say a lot stubborn, but I'll leave it at that. My dad was particular and liked things done in a certain way. It was just one of his quirks. My dad was respected and respectful. He lived by the golden rule of treating others the way that you wanted to be treated. And he taught his players how to be kind and show empathy as a teammate and as a person. I remember the first time I saw my dad as Coach Art. I know I just told the story about him hugging a kid, but there were definitely times where he handled things a little differently. I was at the gym one summer watching the 15 to 17-year-old league play. One of the players got mad about a call, started yelling at his team, and my dad stepped in to break it up. Well, this particular kid decided he was going to talk back to my dad, which not his best move. My dad kicked him out of the game, told him he was banned from the gym for 24 hours and to not come back without an apology and a better attitude. I don't know what the rest of that story was with this kid in particular, but I witnessed the same situation a few times over the years. Dad didn't put up with disrespect, but he didn't just kick kids out and leave it be. He welcomed each kid who needed a little lesson back with a hug, a quick pep talk, and then he would send them right back into the gym to keep playing. I know some of you might have experienced this firsthand, but it taught you how to be a better person. It taught you how to be a better person. He taught the lessons with love and a huge heart. You give respect to get respect. He was the greatest teacher of that lesson. And lastly, my dad was just simply the greatest of all time. I might be biased, but I don't think I'm wrong. It was the greatest honor and privilege to have him as my dad, and I loved getting to share him with all of you too. So there you have it, the Coach Art qualities. I try to think of these memories on really tough days. Next week will be a year since he left us after a hell of a fight. There's a part of me that thinks once I hit the year mark, somehow everything will get easier. No more birthdays, holidays, milestones without him. There have already been so many times this past year where I've wanted to share my joys and hardships and just life things with him. Sometimes I have this gut reaction to still text him. I remember when Hubert Davis was named the head coach of UNC basketball after Roy retired, and I picked up my phone and started to text Dad. It was one of those surreal moments that still catches me off guard. There are so many days where all I want to hear is his voice say, "Hey, K-Bug," get a bear hug and a forehead kiss, or heck, even an ear pinch from him. He was my ultimate hype man and my biggest supporter, and I miss him more every single day. Despite me being a huge proponent of today being a celebration, I'm still really overcome with grief and heartache. But each day, I keep going. We're at the quota. Cool. But each day I keep going because I know that he's with me, and he's proud of me, and he's watching down on me. And he would be so sad to know I was doing anything other than living my best life. I know some days will be harder than others, but I have hopes that it'll get easier. I'm like half a page away, I'm almost done. I read something that said, when we lose someone we love, we must learn not to live without them, but to live with the love that they left behind. I think we can take my dad's love for life and for helping others into our hands as our greatest way of honoring and remembering him. I ask that you help me share his stories, make posters for others, pinch their ear and tell them you love them. Let his legacy live on through acts of compassion and going out of the way for others, by showing people kindness and respect, just like he taught us to do. Embody these Coach Art qualities. My dad's journey came to an end way sooner than any of us ever wanted or expected, sooner than he wanted. But he's in peace, and I truly believe resting among fellow angels. But what a life well lived. I want to end with one of my mom and I's favorite quotes. I'm not sure where he said this, and some of you might have heard it before, but he said, 100 years from now, it will not matter what kind of car I drove, what kind of house I lived in, or how much money I had, but what matters the most is that I was important in the life of a child. Well done, Dad.
Woo. I was coming up here to save you, but I couldn't do anything. I would have just made it worse. But as we do draw to a close, I do want for each of you to say a little prayer for my alma mater and many of yours, Mount Tabor, and all the people that were affected, and the whole city of Winston-Salem. Whoa, all right, let's bring this thing back around, y'all. All right, because I know we in that mood, but I need y'all to do one more thing for me as we draw to a close, and I need all of you to stand up, please. So, quite a few years ago, when Sammy Sosa and Mark McGuire were having their historic home run battle, Coach Art and I used to mimic Sammy with his little antics, doing the tap, tap, kiss to say, see you later. And kind of it went like tap, tap, kiss, tap, tap, kiss, see you later. So what I need for you guys to do is we get ready to tell Coach Art that we will see him later and just follow along. So tap, tap, kiss, tap, tap, kiss, point. Coach will see you. As we close, you guys saw all the pictures that are around and about. The family said that go ahead and take those pictures if you're in them and identify yourself or identify anybody that you know, feel free to take them with you. I didn't want to say it at the beginning, but definitely want to. We thank everybody for coming out to help celebrate the life and the legacy and the legend of Coach Art Blevins. Love you all. Thank you.